Hi everyone, today I'm speaking to a very special person, Michela Graziani, who is working on a very interesting project that caught my attention, and I thought it's like really important to share this with the rest of our design community, as many of us are working on various well-being and meaning related projects that require a lot of interesting symbology to depict those meanings and communicate a little bit more, perhaps sort of esoteric, really, concepts and so on. So, as usual, first question: who are you?
Hi, Jason. Thanks to inviting me here in this conversation. I'm Michela Graziani. I'm an Italian visual designer. Basically, I work as freelance designer, as UX UI designer. I'm focused on really on digital products. I made a change in my life, and this change happened in London when I moved to London, and I decided to study more and to get into this digital world. And yeah, this is basically who I am. I live in Rome, and now I decided to go. I have a lot of ideas, creative ideas, and I decided to explore this world of symbolism, ancient symbolism, and develop a project and test it into a Kickstarter campaign to see if my idea could be shareable with the designer or creative community in general. And this is happening. I'm really proud of the result. And we doubled the first, the goal the initial goal, so we are going really well. And so I'm happy because it means that I could continue to work on this project and to develop more and more icons and symbols for the library.
So tell me a little bit about, first of all, I love the name Symbolikon, very catchy name. It like resonates as a very descriptive and catchy, almost like a brand type name. So tell us a little bit about what Symbolikon project actually is. You mentioned a little bit, but just give us that sort of little synopsis.
Yeah. So yeah, the name was the second step. Before there were the ideas. So the idea was popped in my mind as was my need. As visual designer and a digital researcher, I'm always was looking for meaningful. The possibility to create meaningful designs, and to make this is necessary to have a good research. While in the digital world, it's really difficult to find the source that could give you in a short way and in a reliable way the meanings of symbols worldwide. We are really full of symbols, and every cultures worldwide created their set of symbols from the beginning of the world. So from this, I started to think maybe this can be a work that could be shareable, maybe it can be something really deep, and I can explore this idea and extend research, as first started with just one piece and one category to more and more, and explore the ethnicity and the culture worldwide. So from this I started, and I decided to create a list of categories. I had like a map in my mind with pins, like if I started a real journey, because when I started, I really wanted to take my backpack and going around to discover symbols worldwide. But this was really complicated to do, so I decided to make it mentally and to take the pins, and I wanted to cover all the world to explore symbols worldwide. as I'm always been fascinated by ancient myths and how symbols are related to spirituality and how they impact really, really in a strong way the communication just with the visual. And this is the root of Symbolikon.
So
While the name,
yeah. One of the things that I've certainly done for many, many years of my life is to be very fascinated and interested in symbols and their meanings and their different meanings in potentially different cultures. And then also, like, in some senses, symbols are depicted by different cultures in different styles. And that's all interesting in itself, but when it comes to designing, certainly designing for apps and any sort of consistency that's required by design, one of the ways in which we measure the quality of design is in some sense by the consistency of it all and congruence of it. So it's hard enough to find icons for regular things like profile icon or icon for adding a new item or things like that, and do that consistently. But then when you say, well, I want a Mayan symbol for pyramid or dragon or something like that, and I want also Egyptian symbol for God, and then we want to fuse them all together into one congruent, coherent experience, you basically realize it's impossible unless you go through a process like you're going through. So tell us a little bit about your process and how you are effectively, in a sense, normalizing this set so that other designers can stand on your shoulders to create potentially transformational experiences using this symbolic language. Tell us a little bit about how you're, judging this and discerning between I'll work on this one, or I won't work on that one. I will, maybe you change some of the symbols in some way to fit into your consistency and so on. Tell me, I want to know all of that.
Yeah, it was a challenge. So for a lot of symbols was easy because they are really basic. So there was not so many work to do to make it consistency. But the first step I had in my mind, first of all, I have to create a guideline, a graphic guideline that can be applied to the categories I've chosen now and to the future, maybe can be inserted into the library. And the problem was to match simple symbols with very complicated ones, because for example for Mesoamerican civilizations or Australian civilizations, they are really complex and full of details. So maybe they have a particular trait or yes, they are proper of them. So the idea to create a guideline was the base to make possible to switch from one symbol to the other and to mix together without having the like a gig, but a well-done gig. So I applied, first of all, the golden ratio principle. So I've taken this symbol and stretched into a square shape. And I use the golden ratio as circle and a square inside each other. So I have a grid to follow. Regarding the strokes and the thickness, I applied the rule to use. At the beginning, I wanted to use just one stroke, but was impossible. So basically, there are a couple, sometimes 3 different strokes for these symbols, and these are applied to the details. Where I have very complicated and detailed symbols, I have to use thinner strokes instead of all very all all the same stroke. And so this is the other rule I used. And for spacing, even I always had the same concept, and the symbols has been designed for 150 pixel width. So it's a square of 150 pixel, can be shrinked because they are not really complicated. So the really hard work was to take off details where there were a lot. So for example, for Inca gods, or for some Maori symbols, they were like more illustrations than symbols. But I tried really to keep the concept they have and to reduce into an icon. So for this reason, it's Symbolikon, because it's the work to make a symbol to transform into the simplicity of an icon.
I'm just browsing through the Kickstarter page, which is really well done in terms of describing your process as well as the quality of the work that you're doing. So that's also, I think, I'm not surprised that your Kickstarter has smashed through double the expected figure. And I can see it even still going higher than that. But so, like, how do you actually keep? How do you remember which symbols you've done and which you've not done?
So, how do you remember which symbol?
Yeah, because I'm looking. There's loads and loads of symbols that you've already covered, because there's 650 of them. How do you remember which ones you've already done and which ones you haven't?
I have a spreadsheet.
There's no magic to it.
for something, for some category, I just explored everything. So like the Mayan calendar, I've just done only the Mayan calendar. So there are the 20 symbols. And so I know I don't have all the rest of the Mayan civilization. But for the rest, I have the spreadsheet that can help me to check what is done and what not.
Okay, so what about when it comes to, for example, let's say you take an Egyptian symbol for God, and Mayan symbol for God, and Celtic symbol for God. How do you deal with that situation? And they were all different symbols. How did you deal with that particular, conundrum, as they say?
Well, they are completely different, and they belong to a word. Like every symbol is part of their word. So it's like if you start to read a book and then you close it and you start another one. They are just part, and you discover their meaning and their word, which is really fascinating, because it's like a fantasy word, but it's not, because it's our past and it's really great. And yes, you can discover like which civilization is more related to nature and in their particular nature. For example, if for Aztec or Mesoamerican in general symbolism, you can find a lot of crocodile or turtles, while into the Nordic symbolism you find more like sea gods or storm gods, something that reveal another climate, another natural world. So this is really interesting.
And so how long have you actually been working on this project? Because this must have taken quite some time to do the research and then also execute. And like, because there's so much to do here, right? Like a lot of people, um, I've become very, very cognizant that like visual design work takes tons of time, and not necessarily to execute the final bit, even though that can take a lot of time technically, but it's all the research and understanding and like uh, fusing and really thinking through all of the stuff that you found, right? Synthesizing the research. And then really also sounds like you're really well organized. So how long did it all take, like, since you first had the idea till now?
I started to work to this project 3 years ago, so it took a lot.
Yeah.
And I started researching. So, like I was fascinating getting symbols and reading books and understanding the meanings of this word. So I think the longest part is the research. Then comes out like uh, an idea to bring into paper or into digital. Is the same for me. And technically, it was like I started, then I broke, then I restarted, then I decided to create these guidelines. And when I started with the guidelines, it was a very easy work to follow because I had the rules to follow. And when you have rules, you can go straight forward to your object, to your objective, to your goal. So the most complicated part was to figure out how to create guidelines for this project. And so, but I can't say 3 years is the time I took to create all of this.
Yeah, and I think, I guess to a lot of people that might sound like a long time to work on what perhaps seems like, oh, it's just another icon library. But this is not just another icon library, because this required a lot of really deep knowledge and understanding, really a lot of work as well to sift through it all and analyze and get right and execute well and really comprehend multiple cultures. I know a lot of people who are working on these multiple cultures and just sort of understanding what are the traditions there and so on. But then it's one thing of even understanding, I'm sitting here in Wimbledon in England. I'm not sure that I fully understand the symbols of English culture. But then there is all these ancient cultures from 2, 3, 4, 5, 8,000 years ago, right? And in some sense, what you're doing is you're almost like a designer for the Pharaoh of Egypt that lived like 8,000 years ago. How do you feel working on this project? Do you ever get that sort of esoteric feeling that you've been kind of, in a sense, employed by the Pharaoh of Egypt or some sort of ruler of the Mayan world to kind of, hey, update these a little bit, bring them to the current style?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's quite unusual because as you mentioned, it's not like a stock, like how can you call it, like an icon library for the current use. Sometimes when I was collecting these symbols, I felt like maybe I'm moving some energy I shouldn't move because they are into the past and they should be there. But I really think that taking from the past and design as it is never a creation, a pure creation. Design is something that it always has an inspiration. So my thinking is, if we live in this world which is full of symbology, and we are really overwhelmed of symbols, emoticons, or icons, or whatever, we should know what happened in the past. We should take something from this, even if our communication changes. We can get and grab something, because these were our roots. These were we were before. But the communication in a certain way is always symbolic. So it's like, I feel like an ethnographer, like a designer discovering ethnography, and being inside a world which was unknown for me. But I really believe to bring this and to give to designer to with another aspect, with another usability. Can spread a culture that otherwise is all into ancient libraries of anthropologists, or a world related to universities, which is really far away from our modernity. So the reason to match into our current world is, even if you lose something because you can't have the complexity of a book written by an anthropologist, you even get something, and you know there is something, and you can go through and research more if you are interested into a specific topic.
Yeah, because one of the things that I would guess as well that many people would find useful here, almost as a product, right, is to get access to your research, right, that you've done to actually narrow down to these symbols, right? Because that research is very time consuming, and it's quite specific knowledge. And in a sense, you have a relatively specific target as to what you're looking for. Like the symbol is, in a sense, a thing. It's like almost tangible. So have you considered perhaps also offering that background research even as a thing that other people can get access to and perhaps tap into as almost a product, or like a bit of consultancy? Because in this, what I find is that often the time as designers, when we're working on researching this so deeply, we effectively inevitably become experts on the topic. Do you feel like you're an expert on the topic that you could give some other people like a bit of consultancy on symbols and meanings of symbols?
I was like another step of Symbolikon. I really was thinking to create like an educational product. So Symbolikon educational. So something that can go deeper of each category and give something more. So in a certain way, I can be consultant in this way. So structure something that can be more related to content, always related to symbols, but more something less graphics, and yeah, which can be like an educational project. Yeah. So as consultancy, yes, I can be. If someone is asking to me something, I can give my advice, or I can create something that is specific, or I can drive people to go from one side to the other of the website. Yes, one thing I really would like I'm really curious to know what people are going to do with these symbols. So for this, the other idea, together with the educational project, could be to have an award. So what have you done with these symbols? Have you created like, I don't know, a lamp, a backlit lamp with the symbols, with a symbol, a Mayan symbol, or I don't know, North symbol? Yes, let's do an award and see what people and the community is doing. So the idea is to create a community and something to show the potential of these symbols, even applied to products or to projects.
Amazing. And so have you had some indications as to what people that have backed the project? And in terms of, as we're speaking, as we're recording this, the project is currently on £10,355, and goal was £4,633. So it's gone way past double. And it's my intent, once we publish this, that it will go hopefully a triple, perhaps. But have you had some indications that what people might be using this for so far that back the project?
Yes, sure. The community, the bakers are from the designers, so graphic designers. So you can use for branding and to start an illustration as inspiration as it is. So you take the symbol and from this you start to design something by your own. Otherwise, there are also a community of developers, game designers especially, which want to use this symbol, who want to use these symbols to insert into this fantastic world. So for sci-fi illustrators and fantasy writers, even a TV production, you can start from this to get an inspiration and create. And then if you want, you can get and grab the symbols and you can download the symbols and create your story. Because they have a story, they are part of a story, and you can get and create a new one or redesign your own world with these symbols. Even for like CNC machines engineer, like 3D designs, they are going to use and insert these symbols, for example, for jewelry or talisman or something that you really own on your body. And tattoo artists, even if tattoo artists are really, really good in their design, I really don't want to replace their abilities in creating designs, but just as inspiration. And now there are really popular minimal designs tattoos, so you can get this tattoo and create your tattoo your tattoo in this way. And what else? So I told you, like engraving into materials, backlit, like into the plexiglass with the CNC machine. You can create really wonderful, wonderful designs. And yes, more or less, I think I mentioned all the applications.
Yeah, I can see a lot of this being used in games, like online games. And all sorts of like quests for magic treasures where, some sort of like a Pokemon Go, like, collect all the symbols of ancient worlds, and that becoming a thing for like AR and VR worlds and so on. Yeah. And so what are you planning to do? Let's say, where do you see this project in next 3 years, in terms of perhaps, if you were just to sort of close your eyes and imagine a perfect scenario, where would it be in 3 years' time?
So if I can mention other big, I would like to become like the phantasm of symbolism. So like a collection of really huge collection of symbols, or even another parallelism I had. I want to be like Pantone stands for colors, I want Symbolikon stands for symbols. So
that's very nice. That's very nice.
Yeah.
like a worldwide
Uh,
standard for symbols, like a worldwide standard library for symbols. That's quite something. And in that sense, what do you then see? So you've got 650 symbols in your current Kickstarter library, in your pack. How many symbols do you feel like you've covered so far out of like entirety of symbols that exist? Do you have some sort of like a mental map of that?
yeah, I I think there are really tons of symbols. As much as you research, you find a lot, but there are some which are complicated and which are only present into specific places. So maybe you don't know they are there. So it's complicated to find. Even like just going around Italy, there are a lot in small villages, and you may don't know there are symbols there. And so I think like 2,000 symbols could be really easy to reach it. Then I think I can go over and over, but I can set like 2,000 is something I can reach easily in a short time. But I can reach more and more and arriving to 10,000. But really, it's something I discover step by step. I go inside each one.
Okay, so here is a thing, and I thought I had just a few questions, but you know, as we converse, there's a lot more questions, and I'll keep it to another couple, and then you know maybe we can chat another time. But so there is a lot of, and I've faced this situation in design certainly, where some apps are dealing with very nebulous concepts, meaning things that are not like, you know, here is a wallet, right? Here is a phone. These are like they're not abstract things, they're concrete things. But then a lot of the time we're talking about quite abstract things such as mindset, soul, spirit, thinking, okay? All these kind of things, right? Transgression, transcendence, okay, consciousness, all these kind of things. So have you found a lot of these kind of symbols for these sort of quite esoteric and fluffy things that are not really easily definable? And to what extent do you think that you have covered those kind of subjects or themes?
Yes. When I entered inside this esoteric world, yes, I found very complicated symbols, and I decided to keep aside, and I just focused on something which was more based on history. So there are really symbols, like symbols connected to angels or talisman, which are based on angels, and is really complicated to find the historical part of these symbols. For this reason, for now, I decided to keep as not part of my collection, because I was like, I want to create something that is more historical than spiritual, even if these even are spiritual. But in the past, the spiritual was more connected to real world than it is now, which means like they are two parts of our reality, while in the past were something more more fluent into the normal life of people. So how I handle, there are even people interested in my bakers, which are related to spirituality. So maybe they are going to use these symbols for something they do or just for research. And I don't know, maybe I'm going to explore more, but it's like opening the Pandora vase. So you open and it's like an explosion of meanings, and you really don't know where to go if you really don't know very, very, very well um, each word. Like I inserted the alchemical category, so the alchemy. But alchemy in the past, even if today it has like a magical meaning, in the past alchemy was like chemistry, a kind of chemistry. Yeah. So it's something really tangible. And I decided to insert like these magical spiritual symbols, the tarots. But I made, this was like I wanted to do because they are part of our really game word. They are just the beginning. They were born in Italy, then they were developed in France, then in US, and they are really popular today. And I decided to get these tarots and to create from the main tarots a symbolism related. But this was like a design work I made for this. So they are not like the original. I made really a more creative work on this tarots category to make something that could be fit into the Symbolikon library. But this note I will add into the description. So I will mention that the category, even if it is really an historical category, I decided to recreate a new one as to insert into the library, and because it's something that is really popular into the spiritual magic world, to design your own tarots. So I couldn't miss this.
Awesome. And so the people who, for example, buy the library of the icons, will they be able to search for them? So for example, if I want the icon for God, for example, will I have some sort of like way to search through them? How does that work?
Yes, I'm starting to work to the website, and the research will be based on category and on tags. So you can research by, if you are interested into Christianity or tarots, you just look for and browse this category and see all related symbols of the category. While if you go inside the symbol, you have a tag research, a system of tags, so you can go from one symbol which represents, for example, sun in Egypt, in ancient Egypt, and you go into sun, and then you have all related symbols with the same sun meaning in the whole library, which are a lot, because sun is really the most
quite important
God.
Quite an important part of our existence, right? I'll just screen share of the Kickstarter page here to just kind of narrate a little bit about what I'm seeing. But you know, it's really, really very nicely done and very nicely presented. I won't play the videos. I'll leave that to the viewers to go to the Kickstarter and back the project and really read through this. If anything, it's also a great example of how to present a Kickstarter project in a very comprehensive way. You know, love your hairstyle here, you know, a little bit fluffy, a little bit of messy, you know, but like also very happy, smiling, you know, and you come across as a very, you know, person that's kind of doing this from your soul, you know, and really enjoying and loving the process. And that's why I'm really happy that, you know, you've raised your goal and smash through the intentions right there, and you know, really keen to, you know, get everyone else to sponsor this and you know, back it up. But so even this little map of like where the symbols are coming from, is that also saying that, you know, you've got some color coding? Is there some sort of color coding to the symbols based on where they're coming from, or is this for illustration only here?
Yes, I tried to, but really not. So
Yeah,
the
it's
first
tricky.
will be another step. The second step I want to insert a color symbolism into the just talking about colors into as a symbol. Yeah. Yes, because most of this. Yes, if you can talk. Yes, I like to listen to you talking about my campaign. I
Yeah,
feel really.
so it's you know, it's like where the symbols come from. You know, I think the prices are very, 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 very good prices. Like it's nothing in terms of, you know, extended license for it to be used on all sorts of different things. Certainly, even, I mean, for freelancers, that's very, very decent price. So for anyone who's jumping to you know, back this up, I can see those prices going up, you know, in time as this project becomes I can see this project becoming mainstream thing. One thing that I liked here is, you know, you've gone through your whole process of how you made these, and all these like little, you know, highlights are very cool to, you know, bring out the most important aspects. For us designers, we know exactly, you know, we never really read every word, but you've highlighted the words that really matter. And it's all kind of, it's also very interesting in the sense that you're using the symbols for describing, you know, things, and so it brings the interest to the whole page, and that's why I think it grabbed my attention as well. And also the fact that you're able to tag them in this way. So I can see this not just as a library of icons, but as a, you know, as you build that website, and also an amazing way of actually doing that research on which are the symbols from which ancient culture, for sun or God or soul or whatever else. And as you add that, that becomes not just a library, but it becomes literally a system for research on all these kind of archetypes, meanings, and so on. You know, with people like, you know, Jordan Peterson blowing up on YouTube with his book on like maps of meanings and so on. This is actually more of like a true map of meanings, right? And true map of symbols, and where things are from, potentially also why they're there and how they can be utilized and how they frequently get utilized. All these examples as well. Like I was looking at this one, for example. You know, did you do this as a sort of like a sort of illustration of how it might be used? Because it's beautiful.
Yes, it's an illustration. Yes,
Excellent. It's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I can see these tarot cards being basically also a product, you know, that you can sell in the future. That certainly is like, wow, really amazing. And all the kind of illustrative examples here are amazing to remind us effectively that these icons are not just icons, but they can then be utilized for all sorts of other purposes. And that's very, very important and very cool. And obviously also all this kind of breakdown and how much, you know, the research and development, all this kind of stuff, it's really time consuming and so on. So I think overall you're just like doing really, really great job. And I'm saying this from a point of view where I was working with a company called Rolly that just recently launched their own Kickstarter that's raised almost £1.5 million for their product called Lumi. And so we've been, when I was working at Rolly, we were looking at Kickstarters all the time and looking at what other people are releasing and so on. So done a lot and lots of work and looking at different Kickstarters, and this one particularly caught my eye, and I had to speak to you. And for that, I'm really, really grateful, and you know, applaud you. Well done. You know, it's really comes through, and it's also very, very nice to see that, you know, you yourself are a person who's enjoying this process, and I trust, you know, that it will become a very, very interesting thing in all sorts of different ways in which people measure success. And I'm also paying attention now how your icons get used in other realms for games, for tarot cards, for maybe in films and so on. It will be a very, very fantastic thing to see that reflect itself. Any final things that you would like to make a call to action, you know, as this is going out to probably about at least 6,000 designers worldwide, of which are all your target audience effectively, potentially. Any
okay. So, yeah, it's my time. So I really enjoyed to everyone who is listening here. I really enjoyed the process in this work, and I really would love to create a big community of people which are interested to make their design meaningful, because with this library you can really get an inspiration and you can get good design to create something that has a cultural root. Because I really think for a designer you can do whatever, but if you have a good inspiration, you can do really something good. So pledge this Symbolikon project, because I can make it really to become a really an important source of research in the future, starting from now. So I really would like you are part of the community as well. And you can enjoy these symbols because they are really well done, and they come in 4 different graphic variations. So I designed the bold like if it was a font. So I designed in a bold, light, and outline version. Plus, I decided to insert like a gray version, which is a colorable version. So you have all the pieces separated technically that you can fill with the colors you like more. So I think really it's a good source to spend in your next project, design project.
Awesome. And I'm going to once again attempt to pronounce your name in a proper way. Michela Graziani. Michela Graziani. Did I get that right?
Yes.
Almost. So Michela Graziani, Symbolikon, Library of Ethno-Esoteric Symbols for Creatives. This has been such a wonderful conversation. I thank you so much. And let's see if, you know, we can get more people to back this wonderful project. I'm definitely in on it. Thank you so much, Michaela. And there's only 6 more days. As I post this, there's only 6 days left. So people, now's the time to pledge. Now's the time to pledge, okay?
Thank you, Jason. Really, thank you for this conversation. I really enjoy it.
Awesome.
And yes.
Thank you so much.
I hope to talk to you in the future again, to talk more about Symbolikon, to talk about the other questions you have.
I always say to people, I'd love to check in again in, you know, 3 to 6 months to see, you know, where you are again. So let's, you know, let's make a mental note about that. And I'd love to have another conversation, you know, in some time when you know, more developments happen, because it's all very interesting and relevant. And, you know, it's just amazing to be seeing these kind of things develop and impact on humanity, because really our mission here is redesigning humanity, and that happens through all sorts of different means, and symbols are some of the most powerful ways in which we can impact on people's understanding of life and our thinking and the meaning of what everything is, and communicating that, getting that across in a way that is less words and more meaning and more impact. So thank you so much, and thanks everyone for watching. And look at the descriptions here. There will be linked to the Kickstarter campaign. So go through that, pledge whatever you can and whatever's most suitable for you. And yeah, thank you so much. All the best.
Thank you to you.